On this episode, we're talking about how government contracting seems to be just an easy win. Simply get in there. No, it isn't. I'm here to dispel some of the myths of what government contracting holds, how I got started, and some of the trip ups that I felt on my journey. Welcome to another episode of She Built Success. I'm your host, Claudia. Let's get into it. I remember as a kid, I knew I always wanted my own company. I did not sell candy bars or jewelry or whatever, but I remember in the back of the magazine, highlights, because I'll call out what it was. And I remember seeing they had different ads where you can send off and buy something and then you would sell it. What that was, I don't remember exactly, but I remember you could, put in your information, you send off a little note card and then you're supposed to send it back. And I begged my mom and my dad, I was like, can I do this? Can I do that? They'd be like, no. And I'm like, oh, dude, literally from then I knew it was just in me. I want my own company. That was from elementary school. Very planned, very ready to go. I mean, I knew I was going to MIT. I knew I was majoring in IT. You couldn't tell me nothing. Now, I did not go to MIT. We'll say that part. I did end up majoring in IT, but a story for another day. The whole reason why I decided to go initially the corporate route was because I wanted to learn their processes, their systems, and things that I wanted to incorporate or maybe not incorporate in my company. And so I decided I wanted to, out of college, go full-time corporate. Now, how I got my first corporate job is very interesting. I applied for an internship while I was in undergrad. And at this particular internship, part of the prerequisite was grades. All throughout high school, middle school, elementary school, I was 4.0 plus. I was top 7% of my class. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. There was no such thing as studying for me. I would read over some stuff, go take a test, and I'd be good to go. College was a completely different story. College, I ended up learning how to study. My freshman year, I got a 2 point something ridiculous that I've never had before. And it wasn't because I was partying, because I was not a partier. I wasn't clubbing or anything like that. Just, it was very difficult for me because I never actually studied. I never learned how I study. I ended up learning how I study, which is by colors and association and acronyms. That's how I'm able to memorize and remember things. I had to go for this internship. And he was like, the person that in this internship, you interview with different departments of the company to see, as an intern, where you would best fit based on need and resource. And most of the interviewers were white men with the exception of two. I had a woman and a white woman, and I had a black guy. And everyone else, when it came to grades, they were like, and I'm not gonna lie, I had to provide my transcript. I provided my transcript, and I was like, yeah, my GPA is a 2 point something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was not happy about it. That was, as a person who was used to 4.0s and getting the good grades and flying through tests and acing all that, it was eating me alive. So I'm talking to this guy and I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is my intent. This is what I'm majoring in. Here's my plan. Now, mind you, I was in my freshman year. I had already planned out my entire 4 years, including summer semesters, winter semesters, a major, minor, all of that was in my plan. So I knew where I was going. I knew what I was doing, but that GPA was just not letting me live my best life. And in having the conversation with him, parts of what we were talking about wasn't just the job, just again, some of what are my aspirations, what am I trying to do when I get out of college. And he said, you remind me a lot of my daughter. And his daughter at the time, I believe she was a little bit younger than me, so she wasn't yet in college. But he had that assimilation. You remind me a lot of my daughter. He actually allowed me to get that internship. He started me on this path. And the company, which now has merged with a larger company, but the company at the time, I was working help desk. And oh, that was so much fun. Help desk was fun. I'll give that story in a second. But in working with him, I asked him, years later, I reached out to him actually mid-20s, 2020, 14, 15. And I said, I just wanted to let you know that I am appreciative of you taking a chance on me and believing in what you saw that you look beyond the GPA, because the GPA requirement, I don't even remember what it was. Let's call it a 3.0 because I think it's about generic now, or a 2.75 or something like that. I didn't have whatever the requirement was for that GPA, but he saw something in me that he was like, you know what? Let's go. Let's push go. I'll take the chance. I'll bring you on. All the other ones that I interviewed with, they were like, yeah, no dice. With the exception of the lady, which we will come back to her another day. He was the one who said, yes, we can do this. And so that's how I started my internship in corporate, right? Remember, my goal is to learn what's happening, how they're doing it, so that I know what I can do. Now, no, I was not going to open up a help desk firm. That was not my intent. But the processes are there. It was a Fortune 500 company, so the systems are there. I get to see all of that. I get to experience all of that. I was right across the street from the marketing building, and I was in the IT building, and engineering was to my right. So like, it was just being immersed in that environment as an intern. The help desk was my first introduction to corporate in that Fortune 500 sense. After that, we moved on to the global IT department, which was amazing. It was fun. I got to code, and I was doing coding is not my ministry. I learned that also in college. That was just not my jam. But mine is more data and research and analytics. So that's kind of where I fit. But in that department, I had to teach myself code. I was learning at the time, and I'm going to date myself, but that's okay. I'm learning .NET, which is a language, programming language at the time, and C++. And I learned, it was like right when .NET came out, and I was coding up websites and helping them build out stuff. And that was my deliverable as an intern. Now, in that, I got to meet other interns from different colleges, different universities, and again, learn how they're bringing on interns. It was not just about the work for me. And I can't stress that enough. The goal was, how are they doing things? Where are the fail points? How do I position myself to learn more? Granted, I can't learn all the departments. I was very cognizant of that, but knowing that I was in tech, knowing that I was in IT, I was the only Black female in IT, which was, I guess nowadays it's more trendy and a thing to be in IT. But for me at the time, I had no Black mentors, female mentors that I could look up to. It was me kind of paving the way. I had peers, but nobody in that position that I could view as a mentor. But I can say the experience and the components that I got from that, I learned how to onboard. I learned what to look for in resources. I learned what type of questions get asked. And those are things that I've translated into how I run my company, how I bring on team members, how I potentially bring on interns. And that's what it looked like. It was those key pieces. So we're still in internship land. Okay, it's time to graduate, right? We're there. And I can remember being like, I was asking, well, where are you going to work? I'm going to work at the company I got the internship with. Duh, it's like a Fortune 500, and they have like all the different softwares, and it was like a playground for me because it was fun. Well, what are you going to study? So I ended up graduating with, I guess now equivalent of a business degree with a minor in IT. And then I went on and did my master's in a year and finished that and got that in applied IT, which is networking technologies and database. That's a mouthful, but I did my thing. And I was not one to take no for an answer. So what ended up happening in that role is I got hired on full-time with the same company that I did that internship with. I originally did not want to do that. I wanted to go straight consulting. Out of college, I wanted to go straight consulting. So I went and I interviewed with a firm, and they did not hire me, a consulting firm. They did not hire me. And I was like, oh, that really sucks. And I don't know why they didn't hire me. But I learned then too, again, always taking notes. I learned types of questions that recruiters ask. I learned a workaround on how I'm going to do this again. So what I did was I ended up finding, and we'll come to that in a second, another company, but hang tight. So after I graduated, I start full-time with this big Fortune 500 company. I'm in IT. I'm doing all the things. Well, where are you going to fit? I ended up taking on an application that right today, if I were to say it, those in the industry would know what I'm talking about. But I would do data modeling and data warehousing and build out structures. And that's basically a fun way of being able to see literally the global data that this company had and bring it in and structure it so that different departments can report off of it. And what that taught me then is, okay, how are we taking in data? I learned things about Walmart that I'm not going to say on camera, but I will say I learned a lot in that capacity. So it allowed me to see how to interact with other vendors, right? And the whole time we're taking notes, y'all, because guess what? This company that I'm building will happen. So at this point, after I've gotten that information, I said, okay, I've done some system upgrades. I've led projects. I'm in my early 20s. I was able to go to London. That was cool. International travel at like 20, whatever. I couldn't rent a car at the time. I was too young to rent a car. So I rode with the VP the two VPs at the time. And we flew out and met the team over there. And that just showed me globally what's possible. It's not just in your backyard. It's literally a global company, and you're able to just see those facets. How do you interact? How do you book tickets? What systems are you using to book these tickets? Y'all, when I say notes was being taken mentally and physically, I was all about that, because guess what? The structure of my team and my company, while it's not going to be the exact same, I was taking pieces and borrowing pieces. And so we transitioned from corporate to saying, okay, guess what? I'm going to try my hat at consulting again. So about a year and a half into this role, almost 2, into this role, full-time role, I said, okay, you know what? It's time to try corporate. Here's the fun part of what I did. Take some notes on this. If you're looking for a corporate job, especially in IT, I can only speak from that lens because this is the lens that I approached it with. I went and I picked out 4 companies that I said, you know what? I wouldn't mind working for any of these 4 consulting agencies. And I said, out of the 4, I want to use one as a test. I want to learn the types of questions they're asking now. I want to learn their salary requirements. I want to learn it all. So I picked a company that I was like, if I didn't get it, I'd be okay. And I went, I interviewed, I talked, and I said, they were like, the question, well, what's your salary? What do you want? I never told them my actual salary. I took what my actual salary is, bumped it up to 20 to 25%. And that was my base for what I was asking. And I didn't give them an exact number. I always gave them a range, because if anything, if they ever had any questions or wanted to go research to say, like, is she really, saying what, is it truly that they can't go ask the company that, but they can get a range. So I was like, let's keep it in the range. So I was like, all right, bet. So I gave them my range, and then they came back and they was like, well, you know what? We're really considering insert the next range that they said. And I was like, all right, bet. That tells me for this role about how much we're going to be going for. So that was my trial. I was cool if I didn't get that position. I actually don't even remember if I got a call back, because I took that data and I rolled with the next company that I really wanted to consult with. Went with that company, did the same interview process, but this time I had more insights. I was able to say, okay, I know the range. I know the type of questions they're going to ask. I'm comfortable. Let's go. And I got the job. Now, at that point, I'm still in corporate. I'm still a W-2. And I had my prior company that I closed down. But I decided to still remain a W-2 and go into the government contracting space. So I was a consultant, but I was a consultant for a company in government contracting. So that's how we get to that part of GovCon, or government contracting. And you'll hear me say GovCon a lot. It's the same thing. Government contracting is just a little bit more condensed. And I started working with government clients, and in the same capacity, doing data and analytics and reporting and being able to do like data strategy. Like, that was so much fun. But then I still knew I wanted to do more. I wanted my own company. I wanted to show what I can do on my own. And so we call that independent consulting. In the online space, y'all call it entrepreneurship. Same thing. And I learned that in that capacity of just consulting with the clients, it's still about relationship building. It's still about rapport. And we have this thing called, I think they do still have it in corporate, the like employee feedback or employee reviews. Oh my gosh. The takeaway for that for me was there needs to be a thing called 360 feedback, where the manager will talk to the employee will be able to talk back to the manager and say, here are my recommendations. And then it'll full cycle, not just one-sided. So that's something I could say I definitely took away, which is that 360 feedback. And that's something that I use in my team. So my team knows that while we're going to continue to grow you, I want you to provide that feedback as well. So if there's something I can do different or we could do different as a company, please provide that. So that's a piece that I kind of grabbed from corporate to say, you know what, we're going to insert not one-way feedback, but 360 feedback. So think about when you're building out and setting up the different structures and processes and systems in your company, what that looks like, right? It might not look the exact same way, but this is how I did it. I want you to understand that you can do it not just the same, but your own way as well. Now, in the government contracting space, because this was eye-opening to me, I went from corporate Fortune 500, remember, global data, working with people like Walmart, to government contracting, which they are the largest procurer in the United States of funds for businesses, right? So I went from Fortune 500, fast-paced, race car, like Indy 500 kind of feel, to government contracting. It felt like we was working with snails, because, oh my gosh, to make a decision took so flipping long. I was not used to that. So that was a shock. And I think that a lot of times when it's portrayed online, oh, you can just go get a government contract and it's easy peasy. No, there's a lot of work that goes into it. Even as a company in the millions of revenue, there's still a lot of work that goes into sourcing that contract or looking for the agencies. How about that are buying what you want? So to me, some of those systems and processes that I saw incorporated, that I saw when I started government contracting consulting, is translated into building out the company that is what it is today. And I think that we get sold this big idea that all you have to do is, go bid on this contract and you win. No, guys, no. I mean, I got to the point where at this point I was kind of bored with IT. So I said in 2014, you know what? Let me try this online marketing. I took on copywriting, sales funnel building, email campaigns, literally the whole digital marketing funnel. And I taught myself. I invested in myself. I looked for mentors and I took on small business clients. This was how I started Capital Consulting Group, is part of that, just having that experience, having that knowledge. But what I realized was that even though I was serving clients in copy and email campaigns, in strategy for what that would look like in implementation, it was not the same revenue as what I was doing government contracting. And I don't want to say it's laughable. There's impact there, but it was just not it. And I knew if I wanted to get to where I wanted to go, I had to get the company set up and in alignment with the type of contracts that would bring in those funds. And in the small business online marketing space, that was not it. And so I paused. I didn't, that line of business for Capital Consulting Group, I paused for that period. And I did not take on that work. And I focused on those government contracts and what that looked like. So that looked like finding those agencies, that looked like hiring a team for the company that would allow us to go after those type of contracts. That's teaming agreements and finding other vendors that we could potentially partner with. Like, it's a whole spectrum of things that you just automatically think, oh, you know what? I see this contract and you hear it, you can go and source this contract with DOD and you'll be good to go. Guys, no, the reality is there's work to it. Now, there are outliers and I'm going to give you one because I've done it. There was a opportunity for a contract to bid in the state of Texas. And one of my NAICS codes, which is in marketing, which 541613, there was an ask for these little clear, like you would see them on the side of houses or maybe buildings, like clear brochures that would hold, or clear display holders that would hold the brochures of the house or whatever you're going to tour. There was an ask for a vendor to provide those physical, tangible, little clear acrylic box thingies. I don't sell that. I don't have that. I don't own that. Guess what I did? I Googled and I said, what company can provide, I forget what the quantity was, but these acrylic holders. And what ended up happening was I actually won that. I bid on it and I won it. And I was not expecting to win it. It was just a try and see, an experiment and see. And so what I can do is on what we call in the government space a capability statement, which is basically like a company resume. I could say I was prime. I was the person, the company that provided this service. Well, actually, it was a product, this product to the state of Texas. I can say that. And I can say that because it's on paper. It is what it was. So that's an outlier on a contract that's winnable. So that part is possible. But when you're doing services, it takes time. It takes work and it takes strategy. And I think that a lot of the pieces that I picked up along my route in corporate and deciding to try online marketing, because now that's a really big thing, allowed me to shape Capital Consulting Group where we are here. I mean, we're a digital analytics firm. Like that is the core of what we do. But now we're able to expand in other lines of business where we can serve small business and still be profitable. So it's exciting to see what's been shifting, but it's also frustrating to see the amount of ambiguity around what's being put out there for government contracting. Government contracting is a lot of research, a lot of time, and you're in it for the long run. You can't just turn off your online business today and go pick up government contracting. No, I was doing this thing simultaneously because I knew where I wanted to go. And then I got to a point where I knew I had to pause my work with small biz to be able to focus on government contracting. And that's what I did. That's how I got to where we are now. I think that when we get sold this, or when it's being sold as this pick up and run dream, that you think all the money's just gonna come flying in. Nah, dude. You know how many people are bidding on these things? Bidding meaning putting in their hat for saying, I want to go ahead and take on this contract. It's not as simple as just picking it up and winning it. But when you go in there strategically and you have your systems in place, you have your money team, you have your structure, you could be audited. Like Those kind of things, that's how it gets started. Looking at what certifications you have. Like we have our woman-owned certification amongst others, and we're able to bid on contracts and partner with others because of that. Is that the only thing? It's not. It's a piece of, it's a tool, it's a mechanism that can be used to get your foot in the door. But I feel like it's just so much misinformation on what government contracting looks like. And I'm here to help make you successful if you're interested in getting in there and understand what it really is. So we're pulling back the curtain a little bit on what GovCon is, what it is, and what it could mean for your company. Now, you're probably like, well, I just started. I'm kind of in that shift phase. I'm considering it. I don't know what to look for. I would say if you're interested or thinking about shifting your company's line of business or line of service into government contracting, so like as an add-on, just have that strategy in place. Know what you're going after. And you might be like, well, how do I know what I'm going after? Dude, I have a ton of data resources. We could definitely link those in the show notes so that you can get started and start looking for that. But we also provide that as a service. And I think that what happens when you lack that strategy is you're kind of just flailing all over the place. You think you're going to win the contract, but you don't really have a strategy for writing the proposal or putting teaming agreements together. You don't have the legal structure in place to do it. Like those are the things you need to think about. I know it might seem a bit daunting. The journey might seem a bit hazy or fuzzy. I'm here to help clarify that because we don't got time to be sitting up here twiddling our thumbs thinking about what success may look like. It's time to make success happen, whether that's in government contracting or continue to scale your business. That's something that I feel like we sometimes put to the back burner is we think that, oh, well, it'll come, we'll do it in time. Right now, we're just focused on this. I got time for, $2 products and tripwires and upsells and downsells. We don't have time for that. No, we got to push the pedal to the metal and go. We don't have time for stutter stepping. So I don't want you to think that what you're seeing online is all about shortcuts, and because it's not. Growing an agency for us has taken over 7 years to get to where we are, and that's not for the light of heart. So understand that when you take on endeavors and you take on wanting to go after contract, especially in the government space, I mean, hell, even in corporate, they have their own things, and we'll say that for another day. But in the government space, you want to be able to make sure that you're in the right position from your infrastructure up to the services that you're offering. And just to get started, to get your, little toe dipped in the water, I'd love to be that resource for you. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention was why I actually chose consulting. Like I said I wanted my own company, but consulting to me allows me to problem solve. It allows me to look at different clients' problems, hangups with a different strategic lens. And it gives variability. Whereas if I were to stay in a corporate job, I'd be bored. I can't do the same thing day in and day out. That's boring. It feels like I can't remember like the cartoon character that wears the same clothes all the time. Like I can't do that. I needed variety. And so getting into consulting allowed for that dynamic nature of work while still core focusing on what I'm good at. And data modeling, data strategy, business strategy was what I'm good at. And so I can remember a time I got a little bit ahead of myself where I was in a consulting role and it was W-2. This one was a W-2. And I said to the person, I said, yeah, these are my non-negotiables, and otherwise we're good to go. And the person agreed to those non-negotiables. Well, one day the person kept pushing this button of one of my non-negotiables. Guess what I did? I left. There was no 2 weeks. There was no 1 day. No, I literally was like, okay, if this is what we're going to keep doing, I'm done. I quit. I'm gone. I left. And at that time, it's just me. I was sole income. My husband had already passed. So it was just me. I left and I went and got a different consulting job. And that was as Capital Consulting Group, which is my company now. And the person, I remember asking me, well, you're not going to give 2 weeks notice? Sure, I'm not. And I was okay with that. No, I'm not going to give you 2 weeks. I told you my non-negotiables and you kept pushing that button. And once you kept pushing that button and we've had the conversation, so I left and I was okay with that. And I took on my consulting and I was an independent consultant with my company, working on a project. Now, this is where the story gets more interesting because that gig only lasted for 6 or 8 months. And I literally just got let go. There was no backup plan. I got let go, not because of my work performance, not because of what I was doing. It was some shady stuff going on that I didn't know about. And they just terminated the contract that I had with them. And it was in that moment that I realized, yeah, dude, you're not going to be in this position again. I was not going to put myself in a position again where I did not have a backup plan or I did not have another source coming. And so I made sure to start building that pipeline and making those relationships. I was literally the sole source of income for the kids, me and the kids. And I was like, what are we going to do? And yeah, I had a little bit of a cushion at that time, but not anything drastic. Like I wasn't be able to chill on the couch for like 6 months on end. I just was not there at the time. And so I ended up taking on a role where I wanted everything in me to be an independent consultant like I was with my company, but I had to pause that and go W-2 again. And I was not happy. At that point, I had already had my company. I got to go back. But then I said, you know what? Let's go back to systems and processes. What can be done different? What can be done better? What can you change? And that's what I did. And I build that relationship. That relationship ended up turning into a 10-year, almost, so coming up here, a 10-year contract as Capital Consulting Group eventually. And we took that on, and that is a contract that we have to this day and with that agency. And it has been just invaluable. More than just, it's not just about the money. I mean, yes, revenue is great, but guys, relationships is what really drives business. Revenue will come with it. Relationships, remember that, is what drives business. So government contracting can be daunting. I'm just sharing a little bit of how I got started in this space and some of the trip ups, unexpected things that I didn't plan for that happened, and some things that I did. But understand that going in with a game plan has always been a plan, with the exception of, for me, that contract that I got let go of after 6 to 8 months. Having that backup plan is also good, and that just goes back to pipeline. So I hope this helps shed a little bit of light, at least open the doorway for having the conversation of what government contracting could look like for your business, why I got into corporate, what it meant for my family and I, and how we're progressing forward with Capital Consulting Group. So if you're not already, hit subscribe. I invite you to continue to listen to She Built Success. I'm your host, Claudia, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, it's your Bold Moves bestie, and I'm here to help you unlock your business potential. We're offering VIP strategy days. We are able to come through, help with the strategy, systems, and framework in your business to build processes to give you that firm foundation to get you from shift to scale. So if you're interested, go visit shebuiltsuccess.com and sign up so that we can get started on moving boldly forward together.